Ray was sitting beside me, and he looked at me like, "Are you nuts? You're doing this game, and you're going to do a radio interview right now?" And I said, "I got to keep my brain going. I just got to stay alert." And that's actually how I came up with the golden goal. Right before the teams come out, I thought, man, if this was soccer, and I'm just trying to stay with it and not fall asleep. And I thought, the next goal would be the golden goal. And I went, wow, I think I'll use that. So
that wasn't something that you thought of, like, kids will grow up and think about scoring an overtime winner, and that's
honestly,
the dream. Like, as a broadcaster, you ever thought, if I get a chance.
Honestly, I didn't even think about overtime. And I'm embarrassed to say that now. I wasn't absolutely clear on the rules for overtime. And I feel a little bit better because a few months later, at the end of the Leaf season, I was in just preparing for the last Leaf regular season game with Ron Wilson. And as I left, I said, thanks, Ron, appreciate it, everything else. I was walking out the door, he said, you want to talk about the game? So I turned around, walked back in. He wasn't sure either about what the overtime rules or length of time was going to be either. So I felt a little better about that. He did tell me, and if you go back and watch the game, and I've never watched it again, but if you go back in overtime to watch, Luongo makes a save by going like this right before the goal, and Wilson told me that it was in that bench's line of fire. And he said, I think it was Pavelski took the shot, but I'm not sure about that. But he said, we were all sure it was going in, and if Luongo would have gone like that, he would have missed it, but somehow he went like that, and the reaction time was quicker, and it...
That's the Roenick on Belfour shot, right? That's the Philadelphia, that's the perfect shot. It's where the glove right. Stops, and there's that space between the glove and the helmet. Luongo does that. Fascinating.
That's one of the things I was going to actually ask you is, I was watching, so Aaron Judge hit 62 the other night, and they're showing John Sterling, and they had the camera on him, and it's, it's obvious like he has no notes. He's going from memory and he's watching it out. Like I'm sure a lot of you saw that Seattle, that Seattle home run. They made the playoffs, and hope Seattle gets clobbered this weekend. But it's Seattle and Dave Sims, who's the play-by-play guy, no notes. Like it's all emotion. So do you ever look at notes in a moment
No,
like that?
you don't look at notes, but you do think about the moment, and I'll compare it with the Austin Matthews goal, because I missed 50 because the other guys had the 50th goal. And I mean, we do the most games, so you're thinking Matthews is approaching 50. You've probably called 30 or 35. It'd be neat if you get to call the first Leaf to score 50. Well, I didn't get that opportunity. And then the next one is to set the Leaf record. I guess so it wouldn't be in the first Leaf to score 50.
But just the latest,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in Dallas. Our crew all tested positive for COVID the game before Dallas. Yeah. So now I've missed that. So I'm thinking, this isn't meant to be. But then late in the year, I'm thinking, he might score 60, and that'd be cool. And so we went into that final game 58, and he scores early 59. And I had thought about what I would say if he scored 60. And I got to admit, and John Sterling's miscalled a couple of balls that he thought were home runs, and that's tough. I get it. I actually called the Matthews goal, I think, before he scored it, because I was so wired to score to call 60. I went, here it is, and then he scored, and I'm thinking I was a little over exuberant there, but anyway.
Now that COVID test, was that like a rapid test, or was that the one that you tested positive on?
You know what?
Because if it was a rapid test, I would have taken another one and erased it. Like I would have just said.
The funny thing is, officially, nobody knew except us, and
I would have lied.
We were tempted. The reason we didn't is we had to get on a plane, and we thought, do we want to be that guy? And it was Craig Simpson. I think we all tested in a matter of 12 hours. Our stats guy, Jason Murdoch, tested first, and so we were suspicious. And the next morning I woke up and I felt like I was hungover, but there was not enough reason to be feeling like that. And then it kind of dawned on me, oh, hold on, that's what people are talking about. So then I tested, and then Craig tested, and
I've been there. I get it.
it's the only game
We've
I've,
all been there.
It's the only. It ended my Ironman streak. I've been doing this since I started with Hockey Night in '84. I'd only missed one other game, and that was when my dad passed away. But and that was a CFL game. It was the first hockey game I'd ever missed that I was assigned to do. So that was, and of course Matthews broke the record that night. So.
Yes.
Let me go back to the Vancouver goal one more time. I'm always curious about this. Do you have people that feel compelled, almost in a like Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner kind of way, to come up to you to say, I love that call, and here's what I was doing at that time? It was one of those, where were you? Like, I remember exactly where I was at my house. I remember my exact same spot on my couch watching that. My old German Shepherd Caesar right beside me. My then girlfriend, now wife, sitting right beside me watching that game. And like, it's so vivid to me. Do you find that you have people that come up to you and say, and almost like unburden themselves of their story? Chris, I love that moment so much. Here's what I was doing.
You got a lot of that early on, and I can relate to it because I think if you're as old as some of us in the room who remembered '72, we went through the same thing, and it was a "where were you" moment. And so, yeah, I got a lot of that. I was actually embarrassed because a lot of people thought I was the guy who originated that term "golden goal," and I always felt like apologizing. It's not anything that I created on its own. I stole, didn't steal, but I used what's not an uncommon hockey term. I just used it at the right time.
Greatness borrows, but genius steals. Let's finish on this one. The best and worst broadcast booths in the NHL. The one place like, this is the cradle. I love being here. And the other is, this is the worst. Get me out of here.
The Montreal Forum was the best.
Yep.
And right now we're lucky because the Bell Center's as good, almost as good. Scotiabank's great. The Canadian rinks are pretty good, other than Ottawa's a little high. I will say the worst would be if we had to call the game at the top in Edmonton. I mean, they promised us we were going to have a great booth, and it is an amazing building, maybe the best in the league, but they cut some corners right at the end, and the Madison Square Garden.
Steve, can you fix this, please, next week?
Steve, work on this for us. Eh?
Job one.
It's only going to take $10 million, but they dropped $10 million from the budget, and the ring got dropped, and now that I feel sorry for the guys at the top in Edmonton.
Just get Daryl to pull some money off the tree, and we'll get that all fixed up for Chris.
You know why the Montreal building is still good, right? Because Ronald Corey asked Bob Cole where to put the broadcast.
Bob knew.
Yeah.
Bob knew. I will tell you, and it because it's a pertinent question to how we call games. I'll leave it on this. The one that used to be the worst was Madison Square Garden, 7 floors up. And Doc Emmerich used to complain about it every time he did a game there, which I found humorous, but I understood. And the reason why it turned out to be bad for us, maybe the most famous goal in that run to the Cup in '94 was Matteau. Cuthbert, and I don't know if it was Doc that night or whoever else, I can't remember, up on the 7th floor, thought Esa Tikkanen had scored. And the great call by Howie Rosen was in part, now Howie might have nailed it anyway because he's good and up in the 7th, but the radio guys were in the corner where that goal was scored. Probably not a great location for anything else, but for that goal, he saw it clean. And so it does, for us, it makes a difference. I mean, the guy at home, you're seeing it, as long as the camera angles for you are right. But for us, some of the booths are, the game's just kind of a rumor down there. So
you've given everyone here a lot of great memories and plenty more to come. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Chris Cuthbert.
Thank you. Appreciate it.